Hello, Algebra 1. We have Chapter 7, Section 1. We are now going to be working with polynomials, and we need to go over some basics, vocab, things like that. First things first is that we have to go ahead and define that term polynomial. What is a polynomial? You might have seen it before. You might have seen it in 8th grade. I think we might have even used it earlier in this class. So this definition is going to be for Algebra 1. In Algebra 1, we're going to define polynomial as an expression in one variable consisting of two or more algebraic terms added together. So each of these terms can be a number, a variable, or a combination of the two. Now, something to note about polynomials is that we always write polynomials in what's called standard form, which means, so I'm going to go ahead and underline that for you with standard form, which means that the exponents of the terms in descending order. Or, well, we would say it is greatest first. Okay, that's a whole bunch of words thrown at you. So let's go ahead and let's look at a polynomial and start talking about some of the attributes that make it a polynomial. So I'm going to start with this right here, 4x squared plus 3x plus 5. And let's take a peek at some of these. So this entire thing here, this 4x squared is what we call our leading term. And there's parts of our leading term that we need to know about. We need to know about what's called our leading coefficient. And that's the number outside your leading term with the highest degree. And what is a degree? Well, this right here is the degree, or what we call a degree of a polynomial, which is the largest exponent in the polynomial. So this has the largest exponent of 2, meaning all of that goes ahead and it says it has a degree of 2. Now the last part that we talk about in polynomials is that last number at the end. It's called a constant, and it doesn't change whether whatever number x is, it's constantly going to be there. It's at the very end. This one is 5. Okay, so these are all the parts of a polynomial, but what we need to do is that we actually need to classify polynomials. And in order to classify polynomials, we classify by two aspects. So we're going to classify by the degree of the polynomial. All right, so we're going to classify it first by the degree. Now, it could have a degree starting with 0, and it could go all the way, it could have a degree of 1. And remember, these are the exponents: 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 and up. So if we have a degree, I'm going to go ahead and write this on the side. If we have a degree of 0, meaning that we have an exponent of 0, we call this a constant. And if we have a degree of 1, we might know some of these. We call these a linear function, or a linear polynomial in this sense. 2 is a quadratic. 3 is a cubic. 4 is what we call a quartic. And then 5 is a quintic. And then whenever we have something that's 6 or higher, we simply just say the degree, and then we fill it in. So degree 6, degree 7, etc., etc. So that's the first thing that you're going to call it by. So you're first going to classify it by the degree. I'm going to say first step. Now, the second thing is that you need to classify it by the number of terms. So the second thing is going ahead and we're going to say number of terms. So if it has one term, it's what we call a monomial. Right? Mono means one. One term, monomial. If it has 2 terms, we call it a binomial. And then 3 terms, it is a trinomial. You might have known some of these prefixes. And then, of course, if it has 4 or more, I'm going to say 4 or plus, we say a polynomial with blank terms. So polynomial with 4 terms, polynomial with 5 terms, etc., etc. So going back to this example here, we're first going to say, okay, it has a degree of 2, meaning that we would call it a quadratic. And then it has 1, 2, 3 terms, meaning a quadratic trinomial. All right, so I'm going to write that down for you. I'm going to get rid of these highlights for you. So this polynomial is what we would call, go over here, a quadratic trinomial. A quadratic trinomial. All right, and you might have all sorts of things. So, for example here, we might have something like 3x to the 5th plus 2x to the 4th minus 5x plus 3. And looking at this, it has the leading exponent of 5, or the highest exponent is 5, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So using that piece of information, we're going to say that this is a quintic polynomial with 4 terms. That's how we'd call it, or we'd label it. We could use another one here. So another example, let's do 2x to the 4th plus 3x. Okay, this is highest degree of 4, and it has 2 terms. So highest degree of 4 and 2 terms, that means that we're going to go ahead and call this one a quartic binomial. That's the name of it. So one thing to note before you name anything, so I'm going to scroll up here just a little bit for you, is that before you classify, you must simplify completely. And you need to write it in standard form. So our first example, I'm going to say example 1 on this one, is that we are going to do x to the 6th plus 5x squared minus 3 plus x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 6, x to the 6th. Okay, a whole bunch there, but now we need to go ahead, we need to combine all like terms. So we have x to the 6th and x to the 6th. We have a 5x squared and an x squared. We have a negative 2x, and last one is that we have a negative 3 plus 1. Okay, so now let's go ahead, let's combine all of these. X to the 6th minus x to the 6th, that goes away. So now we're left with, 5x squared plus x squared, so that's 6x squared, minus 2x, negative 3 plus 1 is minus 2. So final answer on this one is 6x squared minus 2x minus 2. So going back to our chart up here, it is a quadratic trinomial. So we call this a quadratic trinomial. Okay, let's try another one here. We're gonna go pink on this one. Okay, so for example 2, I'll write it over here. Save some room. Be careful on your negatives. So we're gonna have x cubed minus x squared plus 8x minus 5x cubed minus 4x squared plus x minus 1. All right, so actually before I start on this one, I need to, because it's minus, I need to distribute the negative to all these terms. So distribute your negative. So we have x cubed minus x squared plus 8x, and now all of these get switched on your sign. So minus 5x cubed plus 4x squared minus x plus 1. And now I can go ahead and combine some like terms. So I have an x cubed minus 5x cubed. We have a negative x squared and a positive 4x squared. We have an 8x and a negative x, and then we have a positive 1. So this one is negative 4x cubed plus 3x squared plus 7x plus 1. Then I'm going to check to see if I can combine any more terms. I cannot. So this has a highest degree of 3. Going back up to my chart, that's going to be a cubic. And now I'm going to need to count the terms. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So we're going to call it a cubic polynomial with 4 terms. Okay, definitely need to practice some more, but that is a good start.